All right, I had to make a new video because if you saw as I was moving up and down, that black line stayed there, so it wasn't going to disappear for a little bit. So when that happens, I just have to restart. But I'm just going to go through each one and say which one I would suggest you use and why. All right, this one, U-Substitution, again, because it's already set up equal to what y is equal to. So you plug that in for your y here and you solve. All right, I wouldn't use graphing for this one, even though this one's set up for you that you could use graphing. Here, if you try to rewrite this one in y equals mx plus b form, you would end up getting y is equal to 2 over 3x minus 20 over 3. And that is going to be hard to graph, so you wouldn't use graphing in that one. You could do elimination if you really wanted to, but you'd have to move the x to the other side. This one is set up perfectly for you to use substitution. For this one, once again, it's set up for you to use substitution because it's saying y is equal to this value. So I can substitute this in for my y here. If you wanted to use elimination, you would just have to move this x to the other side. So you'd get 2x plus y is equal to -1, and then you'd have 3x minus 6y is equal to -9, and then you would have to just eliminate from there. But this one's set up for you to already use substitution. And then this one is set up for you to use elimination because it's not solved for any variable, and we don't have any leading coefficients of +1. This is a -1. So this one's set up for you to go ahead and use substitution, or I'm sorry, use elimination to probably eliminate your x's first. And then this one, same thing, it's set up for you to use elimination because it's not easily able to be written as a y is equal to or x is equal to. You would end up having fractions, and that could make it a little bit harder for you. So you could end up eliminating, I would eliminate my y's for this one first, but you can end up eliminating any one that you would like. All right, so let's go ahead and move to the word problems. So I'm only going to go through 2 word problems, maybe 3, but most likely just 2. We have here the difference of 2 numbers is 4, and their sum is 20. Write a system of equations and solve for the 2 numbers. So when I say solve for the 2 numbers, that means my variables, I need to create them. I'm just going to say x and y. Remember, you must define your variables. So this doesn't really give us much information. So I'm just going to say x is the first number. And then I'll say y is the second number. I'm just defining what they are. I'm just letting you know that there's 2 different numbers. So it says the difference of the numbers is 4. So our numbers are represented by x and y. So x minus y is equal to 4. That's the difference of the 2 numbers being 4. Their sum is 20. So that means I'm adding them together, and now it's going to be equal to 20. This is set up for us to already use elimination because when we add down, we get 2x. Our y's will eliminate to 0, and it's set up for us easily to solve. Divide by 2, x is then equal to 12. Well, now that I know what x is, I can plug it in to solve for y. So here I will get 12 plus y is equal to 20. Subtract to 12, y is equal to 8. So those will be your 2 answers. All right, we did this one, I think, in all of the classes, so let's skip this one. I'm going to skip this one. I'm going to do an 800 one, because this will be the hardest of them all, and all of these questions are essentially the same. If I told you that you had five books, and each book cost $2, how much did you spend on all your books? Well, you can multiply them together and say that you spent $10. So the reason why we're doing this is anytime that we know how many we have of something and how much they cost, we can figure out the total cost by multiplying them together. That is essentially everything that you're doing in all of these word problems. All right, so let's go ahead and read this first. It says the senior classes at High School A and High School B planned separate trips to the indoor climbing gym. The senior class at High School A rented and filled 10 vans and 5 buses with 440 students. High School B rented and filled 13 vans and 10 buses with 775 students. Every van had the same number of students in it as did the buses. How many students can a van carry, and how many students can a bus carry? The questions is going to dictate what your variables are and how they're defined. So in this case, they're saying how many students in a van can it carry? So I'm going to say V is the number of students in a van. All right, we're trying to figure out how many do they carry. So when I say V is equal to something, that tells us how many students a van carries. So it's in a van. And you can use any variable you want, X and Y. It doesn't have to be V. And then it says how many students can a bus carry. So B is going to be the number of students in a bus. All right, so now after I define my variables, I'm going to go through and I'm going to figure out what equations do I have. So it says in high school A, they rented and filled 10 vans and 5 buses with 440 students. So I know a total of 440 students went on this trip. Well, how many kids went in a van? Well, if I told you that there were 3 kids in a van and we have 10 vans, you would do 10 times 3, which means you have 30. But we don't know how many kids are in a van, but we know what represents that, and that is V. So we would represent this by 10V. 10 times V will tell us how many total kids were in a van. And if we had 5 buses and B represents the number of students in a bus, we could do 5 times B. That tells us how many total kids are in a bus. We add them together and it must equal 440. We can then do the same thing for the next one. We know that the next school had 775 students. They had 13 vans and 10 buses. So we can represent that by 13V plus 10B. All right, now we have a system of equations. Now we just need to solve. This, I'm going to eliminate my B's. And to do that, I'm going to multiply this by -2. This will give me -20V minus 10B is equal to -880. Now that we have the same coefficient but opposite signs, we can add down. This gives me -7V is equal to, this will be -105. So I divide each one by -7, and V will then be equal to 5. V is then equal to 15. So some of the mistakes I've been seeing so far is people are getting negative numbers for this. Well, check. Can you have negative people ride in a van? It doesn't make sense. So if you got a negative for this, you know you made a mistake, and see where you made your mistake. So now I know what V is equal to. I'm going to plug it back into this original one up here. So I get 10 times V, or 10 times 15, plus 5B is equal to 440. Well, now I know 150 plus 5B is equal to 440. I will subtract the 150 from both sides. So then I get 5B is equal to, this will give me 290. Divide by 5. And B is equal to 40, or I'm sorry. Yeah, 20, 40, plus 19. So this will be 59. All right, so V is 15 and B is, 58. 90 divided by 5 is 58. All right, so that would then be 58. All right, that is all I'm going to go through for this video. I'm not going to go through the final Jeopardy. Remember, this is worth 10 points, which is roughly between 12 and 13% on your tests. All right, good luck.